What are we doing in the black community? The number one consumer of a Mercedes-Benz is us. Us. The number one consumer of a Gucci and a Louis Vuitton, us. And they don't even advertise. Why is it that in the black community, we are always the number one consumer, but we're not the number one creators?
So you just said it, the fact that there's consumers and creators. For so long, we assume success based on consumption.
I'm saying, like, it kept moving me around trying to play with this. I'm like, you're using my ability to learn, and because I'm multi-talented, you're trying to use that against me. And you want to put your guy, your white tackle, that you want to be your leader on this team that hadn't earned this responsibility because he ain't been through the wars. You want to make him that guy. And I'm like, no, if he wants this position, he gonna have to beat me. Yeah. So I told him, I said, look it up. If you want him to have the spot, look to fight for it. If he lines up against me and he whoop my behind, he deserved opportunity. Yeah. But if we line up and I whoop his behind, I want the same in return. Right. So he looks, okay, we're gonna try it out. We're gonna practice now. Go in. Go through practice, come first game, I'm starting at left tackle. The rest of the season, I started at left tackle. Halfway through the season, this guy has a minor knee injury, quits the team totally. I said, now you were trying to give my position to someone who had earned it. When I'd have been here, been through these fires, been through these wars, competed against everybody from day one, never been a problem. But you wanted to sacrifice me for the betterment of the team because you had another agenda that you was trying to get across. No, I'm sorry, but it's not. You don't have it. So the moral of this story is every now and then you got to show you. Every now and then. But it's knowing when you got to do that. But in order to do that the right way, you got to be prepared to handle whatever comes with it. And that's what we try to teach my son now. I say, look, you can't ask for more responsibility and then get it and complain about the expectations that have come with it. You ask for the opportunity, right? Now, if the coach grants you the opportunity, he's expecting something in return. Yeah. Now, if you ain't delivering what he's expecting in return, he has the right to sit your behind on the bench, right? As he should. But it's your responsibility to be prepared for the opportunity when it arises. All too often, I think, people want things. We want the attention. We want the money. We want the fame. We want all the glitz and glamour that comes with being successful. But we don't want them long nights, them sleepless mornings. We want that sacrifice, that comes with doing whatever it takes, with going above and beyond, and going above and beyond for years and years and years without receiving a reward. Like, we don't want that. And I was blessed to learn that lesson early on because I grew up in a very competitive area. I grew up in an environment where it was extremely competitive. And I was not the best athlete that I was around. It's great. I've never been the best athlete on any team I've ever played on. I think I've been probably the most intelligent athlete on every team I've ever played on. I've been one of the hardest workers. And one thing about me, I'm going to fight. I'm going to be competitive, and I'm going to have that dog. I'm going to, you going to have to whoop me, in order to take this position from me. Or when we step on the field or on the basketball court, there was always a competitive spirit, a competitive fight that you had to have. That's just the environment that, I come from. So for me, having that and understanding that I was not as gifted as a lot of people that I was around, I knew I had to work that much harder. So I believe in fighting for everything that I have. And, I messed around and told God one time, I said, Lord, I want to earn everything I get. Now I'm asking the Lord, give me some undeserved favor. I want some undeserved favor. I borrowed that from somebody else. I heard Country Wayne say, they said, Lord, I pray for undeserved favor because, I want a lot of things and I want to work for it. But every now and then we all want to have a little bit of blessing that came out of left field. We want to, we want all of that. So, but I always wanted and understood it came from that background because I understood my position and what my strengths were, what my weaknesses were, especially just from an athletic position, because early in my life, I did have great size. Didn't have great speed, didn't have all this great ability, but I had a mind and I had work ethic and I developed my skills. And my skills, my mind always gave me an opportunity to compete at a higher level than what my athletic ability said I was able to compete. And later in life, my athletic ability, my size, caught up to my skill and my work ethic. And that's what provided me an opportunity to go to college for free and get a football scholarship and have a chance to go on and try to make something of myself. But I had to persevere during those times when I didn't have and I wasn't getting the awards. I wasn't getting the recognition. My best friend was the 6A state player of the year in basketball. Other friend was, all city and, McDonald's All-American. And so I'm around people. The other friend that was the football star started getting offers from Nebraska and Oklahoma in 9th and 10th grade. And I'm sitting here and I'm just like, ain't nothing come my way. But I had to just kind of stick with it and understand that in due season, you will reap if you're fading now. And I just kept on. My mama kept pointing to me, hey, just keep working. Your time will come. Your time will come. And as a kid, I don't understand that. You don't want to get that. All you see is, things that, the attention that other guys are getting, the girls are liking him. And, back then you had to earn them strikes. The girls ain't love you just because you had to be a star on the field or on the basketball court to get a little extra attention and to be favored from that standpoint. So, I always wanted that attention, but didn't get it. But it created a desire and a fight where I kept working, kept plugging away. And sooner or later, thankfully, my time finally came. And I'm happy and grateful that it happened for me that way because it made me appreciate it more. But it taught me a valuable lesson in life. And it helped me to understand the art of delayed gratification. Whereas I'm willing to persevere and fight and knowing that at some point in time, this thing's going to turn around. And at some point in time, I'm going to be blessed for all of the work that I put in. And I tell people all the time, in life, I believe everybody gets granted at least one opportunity to be special. But I think your hard work can create additional opportunities for you. And I say that because we all hear the old adage of somebody's always watching you. Yeah. Somebody's always looking. You don't know when, don't know where, you don't know who. But somebody's always watching and paying attention to you. So I've always been fixated on the fact of I'm just going to continue to work. And I've learned that somebody sees that work. And people want to be affiliated with people that work hard, with people that they know are willing to put in the time, put in the effort, and the attention to detail to be great. And that creates more opportunities. So when I see people say, well, man, you just lucky. No. Everybody lucky at least once. But are you creating your own luck? What we would call fable, right? And I tell people, favor ain't fair. But it ain't fair because I'm putting in work that you ain't. So guess what? The favor that I'm getting ain't gonna be the same as the favor you get because you ain't putting in the work that I'm putting in. You can't expect to get what I'm getting if you ain't done what I've done. The problem is we don't see what everybody else has done. I tell my son all the time, I say, your character is who you are, but nobody's watching. What kind of work are you putting in behind the scenes? I say, everybody goes to practice. Everybody runs fast and practices hard when the coach is looking at them. But when the coach turns his head and when you got that extra lap to run and it's you on your own or you practice is not over, are you staying on the field once everybody leaves and running additional sprints? Are you going back to that weight room? Are you going back to that field, putting in extra work? That's what's going to get you over the hump because that's a separate. Everybody's doing what they supposed to do.
The minimum.
The minimals. Like that's an obligation. You attending practice does not make you special. That just teaches you some of the fundamentals that you need to be working on when you're away from practice, honestly. But it's when you're outside of that, what additional work are you putting in to be whatever it is you say you want to be? So if you want to be a financial advisor, if you want to be a podcaster, if you want to be an attorney, if you want to be a doctor, what kind of studying, what kind of preparation? Are you putting yourself around other people? Are you, YouTubing videos on how to learn how to be better at whatever craft that you have? Or are you spending your time scrolling through Instagram, just looking at everybody else while they're enjoying life? So we can't complain about what we're not getting. Well, we're not taking the time and making the steps to get better at it, whatever it is we say we really want to be. So, welcome back to Closing the Gap, the truth about Blackwell. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. Wilbur Hamilton, here with my co-host, Mr. Eddie Richardson. Of course, we're lighting up 2025, blessed and highly favored. Like we said, favor ain't fair, but we want to create our own favor. And, you know, we're here today, of course, to bring another wonderful information here on V94.9 WATV. And, of course, you can check us out on YouTube, Closing the Gap, the truth about Blackwell. And, of course, all your podcast stations, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and the like. So, of course, like, share, subscribe. We want to continue to bring you more amazing content, and the more you like, share, subscribe, the more amazing content we're able to bring you. And we look forward to bringing you a lot more that we have in store for you for 2025 and beyond. So today we're going to kick things off. And, of course, we're in our faith and finances phase of things, and we want to continue to uplift and bring new information and educate, along with bringing some expertise that we have in different areas to the people. So to all the listeners, we thank you for listening. We appreciate you. We can't do this without you. Like I said, without the audience, you have no listeners. So we want you to help, grow the platform. So the information, obviously, you think is beneficial to you, please share it with somebody else, because you know it's going to be beneficial to them, because we're all blessed to be a blessing. So, now we're in 2025. The one question we got to ask people is, do you have a plan? Mm-hmm. Most people don't plan to fail. Yeah, but they do fail to plan. So, Brother Richard, how do you feel about the new year, where things are going, and what you think we could do to help people put themselves in a better situation to help us close the gap?
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity. Wilbur, glad to be here with our people once again. As we kicked off the year and kicking off the year, we talked about planning, talked about writing things down, and on previous episode, I even challenged people to say, hey, I dare say that if you don't write the things down, then you may not be able to get things done. So we want to reiterate that first and foremost. Take the time. If you haven't written everything down yet, continue to write it down. Be patient with yourself when you're writing things down. Don't just write something down just to get something down on paper. Write it down, revise it, revisit it, pray over it, see if this is actually the way things should go, right? Me being English major in education and having to write papers and things, that one of the hardest things that there always was to do for me was when I'm writing a paper, that thing that I hated doing was going back and revising. Okay. Yeah, I never liked revising my papers. I wanted to just leave it as it is.
I ain't want to write your papers. I'm gonna say I'm not an English guy. Never have been. Never was. I've always been a numbers guy. So English was probably my least favorite subject and my worst subject, because I hate to write.
Yeah, and I dare say, Wilbur, that's probably most of our audience. We hate to write. We don't like to do those things and hold ourselves accountable in that way. But in this year, we want to press you all, challenge you all, while we are challenging ourselves to hold ourselves to another level of accountability. Do the things that you don't like doing. And when we're talking about planning and talking about moving forward, first and foremost, we need to realize that there are going to be some things that you are not going to be comfortable with. Too many times we seek comfort in our life, right? And in order to get to a place that you want to get to, you're going to have to deal with some uncomfortability. That's just part of life. You're going to have to, in order to get some change, things have to change. And whenever you go about doing some change, it's going to be some uncomfortable places in your life to do those things. First of the year, everybody sets goals of exercise, right? And you go in the gym and you exercise or you walk or do whatever you decide to do in exercising, your body is not used to it. And so your body is going to start hurting once you start moving those muscles, stretching them, putting a little stress on those muscles, right? Because that's what it is. Yeah. It's stress. And what we need to realize is that stress is good when you are the one that is taking control of that stress, right? And that stress makes you uncomfortable, but that stress will grow you. That challenge will grow you. So we want you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Yes, right. I preached quite a few sermons in my day. And one of my favorites is where I talked about Joseph and Mary. During the Christmas season, I preached a sermon, The Comfort of Being Uncomfortable. And I preached that sermon based off Joseph and the fact that here it is, he has found his virgin wife, and then now all of a sudden she is pregnant, and everybody in the city knows that she's pregnant, but yet and still she's still a virgin. And so now I'm supposed to marry this virgin that is pregnant. And I think Joseph probably felt like, man, somebody that snuck behind my back. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying?
It was what he thought.
Yeah. But the angel came and told him, look, don't worry about that. I got you. This is from God. And so that was an uncomfortable place.
Absolutely.
But he had to find comfort in God in that uncomfortable place to grow and be able to allow life to happen in the manner in which it needs to go. And for many of us, writing down a plan is uncomfortable. Holding ourselves accountable to that plan is uncomfortable. But the blessing of that discomfort is that you will grow into a new space. You will grow into becoming greater. And whatever you write down in that plan will most likely come to fruition. Why? Because now you've written it down and you actually see it. And now in your mind, you're going to make that thing come to pass because you put it down. So as we go into this new year, we want people to have a different mindset. Mm-hmm. In our preliminary conversation leading into this show, that's where I picked up. We talking about sports, and you talking about your career in sports, and we're talking about life, and all of that was mindset. Mm-hmm. Right? What type of mindset do I have when I go in here to practice? What type of mindset do I have when it's time to play the game, right? Do I have my mind focused on dominating my opponent, right? Well, most likely, if my mind is already defeated when I enter into the game, then most likely, it's going to be a long game. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get beat down. Why? Because it starts in my mind. I've already lost mentally. And so when I get into the actual physical part of it, I'm going to get defeated too. And so when we deal with our faith, when we deal with our finances, that's the same thing for us is your mind set on success? Is your mind set on building yourself to a new place that, yes, it's uncomfortable, but you're willing to face the discomfort because you want to be in a new place?
Well, I think that's something that we all have to have. Like we talk about, personal accountability and ask for help a lot, because those are the key steps that need to have, and the personal accountability. And then, of course, we're not experts in every area, so we stop to someone who is that can help us. Like, like for example, we have with my company, Hamilton Wealth Advisors, we have a budget worksheet. We have a client profile form. These are documents that we've already prepared. And it basically gives you a roadmap of the guide. All you got to do is fill that information out, and it tells you exactly where you are. And a lot of times, all too often, when I meet with people, they ask me, do I really got to fill all this out? And I say, well, yeah, you do. Because there's no way I can properly diagnose your financial situation without knowing what's going on with you. The same way when we go to the doctor, I don't care what you go to the doctor for. I don't care if you got a broke foot. I don't care if your stomach hurting. I don't care if you can't breathe. They do the same thing every time you go to the doctor. Take your height, take your weight, check your blood pressure. Mm-hmm. They check your vitals. They check your information. The nurse asks you a few questions. She puts you in a room. Come back. The doctor come in, ask you a few more questions. And then he comes back with a diagnosis. Well, it's the same thing in your finances. You got to sit down. You got to let somebody help you do an accountability check. You have to do a deep dive and do a review into where you are right now today. What feels good to you? What doesn't feel good to you? All of us, we had the doctor has a little instrument. He come and tap you on your knee to see if your reflex is working. Hit you on your knee to see if your knee pop up. Sometimes it do, sometimes it don't. We don't know what he's checking for. We just trying to see but he's doing some tests. Yeah. There's some things that he knows based off of your response that gives him an idea as to what may or may not be going on with you. And I think all too often we're trying to do self-checks because we don't want that accountability, because a lot of times we don't really want to know because we're afraid to address the problem. Be back in a minute. People look at me funny the way I talk to my son in basketball, for example. So I come from a very tough love background. My dad is I tell people the greatest gift my father gave me was the truth. He ain't never lied to me a day in my life. If I wasn't good enough, he told me, said, man, you ain't good enough. If I wasn't working hard enough, he told me, you ain't working hard enough. He never sugarcoated it. Now, public perception would be like, man, your dad hard on you. He always going off on you. He cussing you out. Now, they're focused on how he's delivering the message.
Right.
Whereas by the time I got to be 12, 13, I could hear through the way he was delivering the message, and I could hear the message.
Right.
And the message is the most important thing. But in society now, tough love is kind of going out the window to a certain extent. You know, kids are a lot more coddled. They're babied. We all hear that and say that. And obviously, all the kids are spoiled now. I mean, I was spoiled as a kid, but obviously, we've come a long way as a community. And we all kind of seek to want to give our kids more than kind of what we had from a material standpoint. We want to kind of show that we're in a better position financially. And our kids are the beneficiaries of that. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes we kind of lose sight on some of that struggle and that tough love and that truth that we got from the previous generation is what put us in position to be able to give our kids more. Because we were a little bit more disciplined, a little bit hungry, a little bit tougher. We had, thicker skin. We didn't let everything rub us the wrong way to an extent where it took us off our game. And you see, even in society now, you hear talk about how suicide rates have gone up with kids and because of social media and the pressures and dealing with things. And we was coming up, sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt. But we was raised a little bit different. It's like,
That's what
that's the way we was taught. So now
it's the mindset that we were talking about there versus what you're saying now is the mindset is, no, we're going to coddle you, we're going to baby you. But what we're starting to see is that mindset is failing us as a society.
Absolutely.
It's making us lazy, and we're not willing to put forth the work and the effort that we need to put forth. That's why people don't write down their plan. That's why they don't want to be held accountable.
Exactly.
Because I've been told that, it's going to be okay.
It's exactly. And it's not going to be okay. It's not going to be okay until you make it okay.
Right. You have to put in the work.
Exactly.
To make it okay. You have to write these things down. You have to put your hands to the grind to make it okay. Like nobody is coming to save you.
Exactly.
And make it okay.
Exactly. And I think sometimes in our community, we've been, people can say, I think sometimes we've been waiting on God to save us. Well, God then gave you the tools to save yourself.
Yes.
He didn't give you the book. All the else is in the book. Have you read the book? The stars were reading the book. So the answer to your questions is always right in front of you, but we're not opening up the book to read, to get the message, to be able to get the scripture in us so we can get the discernment. So now we know how to attack whatever it is in front of us. He's already given us the victory, but we don't know that we got the victory.
Yeah.
So it keeps us in bondage. You see why, like I said, suicide rates go up. Stress levels are higher than they've ever been, I think, for people because of dealing with whether it's social media or financial pressures, because we live in such a materialistic and, financially dominated society where, if we have those better habits, if we wrote that plan down and made a plan, if we knew what we could buy and what we shouldn't buy, knew what we can get and can't get, knew when it was time to get a new car, knew when it was time to get a new house, knew when it was time to get your kids this and get your kids that, versus just getting it for them because we want to show them that we love them. And we've equated a lot of times in our society now, we've equated money with love in a lot of ways, and it put us in a position where we picked up a lot of bad habits because
Our debt to income ratios have got out of control. You know, consumer debt right now is higher than it's ever been. There's more people behind on car loans right now than there ever has been. The average price of a home is higher than it's ever been. The average price of a car, you know, they just did a study not too long ago. The average car note is $1,000 a month now. That's the average car note. Now, you think about that and you took a look at all the cars that's on the road.
Yeah.
All the cars on the road ain't $1,000 a month cars.
Yeah.
So when you think about people that are paying over to have this and have that, paying ridiculous interest rates because, you know, credit is not together, because we didn't pay our bills on time, or we didn't do this and do because we didn't have a budget. We didn't write it down and make it plain. So that's kind of the first step to having any type of solid foundation financially, life-wise. I mean, used to be a thing was sounding right down the goals. Right now I have a practice. I have a monthly meeting with, you know, all the, you know, employees and advisors that I have within the company. And we did a 2024 end of the year assessment. We're doing a 2025 kickoff call. We got production targets and goals and objectives. What do you want to accomplish in 2025? I asked them that in 2024 because in 2025, in the first meeting, we're talking about what we need to do to accomplish that goal.
Right.
And to make those things happen. But we had to write down the goal before we got there.
Yeah.
We can't wait till we get there and then want to just think it's going to happen. We got to start planning ahead of time and planting those seeds. And in the middle of 2024, I tell my team, hey, you know what? This is where you are midway through the year. I want you to start thinking about right now where you want to be this time next year. We got to stay ahead of the game. But that comes with the planning, the preparation, the writing it down.
Mindset.
Yeah, and
done.
creating a competitive environment as well. I think that's a lot of this. Is one of the reasons why a lot of employees, they tell you to this day, they love hiring former athletes because of the discipline, because of the competitive spirit, because of the work ethic that you have to have when you are an athlete and you're used to having to get up, go to practice hard, work hard, used to having a schedule. So it usually falls in line with a corporate environment, so to speak, with, you know, having someone that you can trust is going to be accountable. And they have those traits that can translate over into other areas of life. We got to start making sure those things translate, which is why we got to still keep holding our kids accountable at the same rate that we were held accountable. You know, people say, man, you know, I think you put too much on it. And I had people tell me at my son's basketball games that, you think you're a little hard on him. I said, well, we got to look at life. My son is not growing up in the same environment that I grew up in. Mm-hmm. The only adversity my son has is the adversity I give him and create for him on the basketball court. He lives in a nice community, goes to nice schools, has, you know, he's spoiled, obviously, has everything he wants. He's not going to see and have to fight literally, you know, at the park. You know, he ain't, you know, we would say in the hood hooping. And, you know, that Saturday morning in the gym where it get a little hostile in there because don't nobody want to get off the court. You know, once you on the court, I'm trying to stay on the court. And you're going to have to fight me to get me off this court. Yeah. Well, that environment doesn't exist anymore. So for me, I try to find ways to create a little bit of adversity, not to beat him down intentionally, but really to help build him up. Now, I beat him down a little bit in the beginning because I'm trying to see how he's going to respond. For me, I'm thinking about when life hits him. When life starts to beat him down, this is the preparation that I'm thinking about. But most people look at it saying, man, you taking basketball too serious. Well, this is not about basketball. These are life teachings and lessons that I'm trying to impart in him. So when he gets older and he's no longer playing sports, but he's in the real world. He's married, has a family, has kids, has responsibilities, and life starts to hit him from out of left field. He's in a position where he's like, you know what, man, I remember this feeling of being beat down, and I remember digging deeper and responding. So I'll watch my son in the first half of the game and him not competing at the level he needs to compete at and me getting after him. And then in the second half, I see a totally different kid. Now, he's frustrated. He's mad. He don't like that dad is getting on him. Yeah. But I see how he responds.
And that's That's what you're trying.
And that's what we're trying to get out of it.
That response.
And get the response now, because it gets to a point where by the end of the game, I'm not having to say anything anymore. Now, to the outside world, they only remember what I did in the first half to him. But they haven't noticed throughout the course of the game, I've had to say less and less because now he's getting prepared. He's taking control of things, and now he's leading the way. And that's what the goal, I think, of every father is when you have sons, daughters, and kids. Your job is to prepare your kids for when you're no longer here. My sons would always be good as long as I'm on this earth, because that's my responsibility, and I do that with pride. I'm going to make sure that I'm here for my wife and my family. But the goal is when he's no longer here and he has a family of his own, what kind of man is he going to be? What kind of character is he going to have if I allow him to skate by, if I allow him to crumble under so-called pressure? Yeah. Because we know this is not real pressure. Sports is not real pressure. Right. Pressure is when you're behind on your bills, you got a foreclosure notice, you get a tax bill saying you owe this, so they're gonna take your stuff, and you ain't got no money coming in, for the next 2 weeks, and you got a daughter that needs Pampers, and you got a son that needs daycare. Like, those are real pressures, and you're scared to go to the doctor because you're scared what the doctor may tell you about your health. Like, those are real pressures that people deal with, but it's how do you handle that? And I think the earlier we start teaching our kids how to handle small pressures, obviously, it'll help better prepare them for later on in life. And I think we can be that example as to how to better plan and prepare and stay on top of those things, because if they see us balancing the budget, if they see us, taking time out and doing monthly meetings, and then every now and then including them in some of those conversations about money, and this is why we don't spend at this particular point in time. I have something I do now with my kids. I don't buy toys. I don't buy stuff no more. Because I'm like, for most of these kids, it's Christmas every day. Yeah. They get new Jordans coming all year round. They get new Jordans and new shoes and clothes because they're growing. That's coming all the time. So for me, I've said I do stocks over stuff. So this is just something small that I tell people, and I want to tell the listening audience that I do. And you're welcome to implement however you see fit. Mm-hmm. Every time I go, and I look to tell my son, I said, look, we got an option. You can get these new Jordans, or I can buy this Nike stock for you. Mm-hmm. This Nike stock, while you might not appreciate today, but in 5 years from now, it'll buy you probably 5 or 10 pair of Jordans. Or I just buy you the Jordans, and these things going to be good for the next 6 months. You're going to outgrow them. You're not going to have them anymore. So teaching them now the art of delayed gratification, saying, you know what? I know you want the new Xbox, but even if I get you the Xbox, I'm going to buy you a share of stock in Microsoft. Mm-hmm. So you can see and start to learn the art of delayed gratification and the appreciation and value of assets versus liabilities. So we spend a lot of money in our community on liabilities, things that don't appreciate in value. Okay. So started to kind of teach them now, saying, look, we want to put in our kids' minds stocks over stuff. These are things that other communities have done and have been doing that really puts them ahead, because they don't chase labels the way we do. Yeah. If you look at other communities, and I don't want to just call out and blast other communities, right, but if you look at other communities of a different complexion, they're not buying new Jordans at the same rate that we're buying the new Jordans. They're not always buying the new this and the new that at the same rate. They did an article the other day on the difference in NFL and NBA athletes that come from Black communities and Black homes versus Caucasian and white homes. Mm-hmm. We're spending all of our money to show we've arrived. They're spending none of their money. The average car price of a vehicle bought by a Caucasian when they make it to the NBA, NFL is $60,000. The average price of a house is $125,000. They buying a new pickup truck. We buying a new Maybach. We want a Rolls Royce. We want a Bentley. We want a Range Rover. They want a Ford F-150. Now, taste is one thing, but understanding the value of a dollar is another.
It's mindset.
It's mindset. It's where I come from. It's what I'm used to. They've learned that, you know what? don't put my money in things that are going to depreciate in value. Let me put my money into areas that are going to appreciate and be more beneficial for me later on, which is why they do this study, and and we've all probably heard of them. They do stories about them, ESPN, 30 for 30. They did one 30 for 30 called Broker. It's why 75 to 85% of athletes 3 to 5 years outside the NBA and NFL have filed for bankruptcy and have lost 95% of their wealth. Well, when you do a deeper dive into that and you do the racial difference from African-American to Caucasian, well, on the African-American side, yeah, we make up 90% of that. Caucasian side makes up about 10% of that. It's not that they're making more money while they're in the NBA, NFL than we are. In most cases, we're making more because we're predominantly better athletes in both leagues. But it's what we're doing with the money while we're there and once we leave that makes the difference. And all that comes from having a plan going in, writing it down and making it plain. It's having some personal accountability. It's mom and dad sitting down saying, hey, you know what? You don't need a house here, a house there, an apartment there. You don't need 3 cars. We don't need you to give us $20,000 a month and buy us a new home to take care of us. We want you to save, put that money away, invest that money in the future. And when we get to the right point in time in life where we can afford to do those things, we'll do them then. We're doing them way too soon, way too early, because we're trying to show that we've arrived, because we've been deprived in our communities for so long. We feel like, having stuff validates us. And that's one of the lessons that, I think we all struggle with to a certain degree. I mean, I can even say I personally struggle with it to a certain degree, because we always want to show that we arrived, that we made it. But you have to get to a point in life to where you're living for yourself and your family, and you're living for the glory of God, not for the glory of man.
Right.
So I think that's that maturation process that we need to have and we need to go through to get to a point where I'm not worried about what somebody else thinks about what I'm doing. I only care about how it's going to benefit my family in the future. And we have to continue to impart that upon the young kids. We're doing some great initiatives, I think, in the community. I see in Birmingham City, they're doing financial literacy initiatives and things of that nature. We have to really promote that, but it starts at home. And it starts with, like you said, writing it down and making it plain at home. And if kids see you writing down a financial plan now, these are things that you can teach your kids to do. I want you to make a budget. Mm-hmm. If I'm giving you an allowance on a weekly basis, or if you got a job and you making a little money on the side, I want you to make a budget. How much are you spending? Start tracking your spending right now, because those are probably the biggest detriments in our community is the lack of tracking spending. I mean, those things that I have to personally work on. I had to go back and do a budget worksheet myself to sit down and see, hey, what am I spending my money on? Where's all my dollars going? Because I need to make sure I'm redirecting money into the right places to make sure that my money is appreciating and working for me, because we got a new regime coming in office, and we've complained about not liking the new regime or not liking the person who was elected president. And at the end of the day, it is what it is. He's been voted in, whether we like it or not. Let's look at what he's doing and what his initiatives are and see how we can leverage and take advantage of those. We know he's going to try to make America great again. Well, what does that mean? That means that the stock market, the S&P 500, the top U.S.-based companies are going to probably thrive under his leadership. Well, we need to make sure that we're investing in those companies so we can reap some of the benefits, because there is a huge disparity in, obviously, inflation, the cost of living that's going up over time, and also the appreciation in the stock market. The reason why we're always complaining and we are day late and a dollar short is we're feeling the inflation, but we're not participating in the growth. And we were participating in the growth of the stock market and making the money in real estate in the different areas and different asset classes. We wouldn't feel the imbalance in inflation as much. And that's the difference between a have and have not. But that's a mindset.
Yeah. So in doing that, we're going to have to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
For a while, because like you said, whether you like who was elected or not, hey, that's going to be a point of discomfort for you. Mm-hmm. So, hey, let it be, right?
Exactly.
But if you have your plan and you submitted your plan to God, it doesn't matter about that person being in there. Right. And then once you have your plan written down, now if you put your mind on things above and not beneath and set your mind on God, that now you can walk that plan out. And it doesn't matter about who's in that office because you have your office set up correctly. You have your home set up correctly. And so now you can go into what you need to do and do everything that you need to do the way that you need to do it in the way that God has it laid out for you and for you only.
Yeah. See you in a minute.